Welcome to another episode of AppSec Unlocked, your go-to podcast for all things application security. I'm your host, Edwin Kwan, and today we're diving into a crucial topic, which is on executive security awareness, how to speak the board's language. We often hear that cybersecurity is a board-level issue. But how do we effectively communicate security risks to executives who may not have a technical background? How can we create board-level security awareness programs that resonate? And most importantly, how do we translate technical risks into business impact that the C-suite can understand and act upon? To help us unpack these questions, we have a special guest with us today. He's a seasoned CISO with extensive experience in the financial services industry. When I say extensive experience, we're talking about nearly 3 decades of significant achievements in leading diverse information and security initiatives for renowned blue-chip organizations, including ING Australia, AIA Singapore, United Overseas Bank, ING Wholesale Bank Asia, and Hewlett-Packard. So this person comes highly qualified and has some fascinating insights to share about executive-level security communication. Welcome, Mangaraja Saut Martua, to AppSec Unlock. I know your friends call you Saut. So Saut, great to have you on the show.
Thank you, Edwin. Thank you for inviting me. Yes, most of my friends call me Saut. That's fine. Thank you.
So Saut, you have an extensive experience as a CISO working at a number of organizations. And during your time at those organizations, you would have had to communicate with the board. In your experience, what are the biggest challenges CISOs face when communicating security risks to the board?
Yeah, that's correct, Edwin. We are the CISO. We usually coming from a diverse background. Some coming from the technical, some coming from the risk background, and maybe other industry or other areas. So, in order for us to communicate to the board, it is very important that we speak in their language. It is from my experience, I always need to answer the so what question. So whenever we go to the board, we come up with a great presentation. We always have to be able to answer the so what question to the board. So for example, we going to the board, we explain about our cybersecurity strategy. We explain about our indicators. We explain about what is our plan and intention, etc. But I think the most challenging part for most of the CISO is to answer so what for the board. So most of us will know that many board members are coming from diverse backgrounds. They are also maybe sitting in many other board meetings. So we as a CISO must do our homework. We just need to know what is their role in the board meeting that we are going to, whether they are the chair, whether they are the member of that board meeting, and then we also need to understand their background. So from there, we will be able to answer the question, so what for them. So it is very difficult situation, and maybe it will be a frustrating situation to the board member when we are very good in explaining the cybersecurity. We are very good in answering what is attack surface management, for example, but we fail to answer the question, so what for them. So I think the biggest challenge for us, Edwin, as a CISO, is to answer the so what question in the board meeting.
That is so insightful. got to focus on the so what. So you've mentioned before that you've had success with crisis management tabletop exercises. Can you tell us about a particularly effective one that you've conducted?
Yeah, I still remember one that I did it before in my previous organizations. So what we did is actually we invited numbers of actors. So these actors, we asked them to become a regulator. We asked them some become a media. We asked some of them become a police. And also some of them become the head office senior leader that calling from the head office. So we prepare some numbers of questions for them to ask to the crisis management team, and we simulate a crisis during a crisis where these people will call in from a phone number and then call into the crisis meeting room where the phone will ring and the people will start calling out and asking numbers of the CMT member. So that exercise is quite interesting because not only simulating the technical preparedness for the CMT member, but it's also preparing mentally for the CMT members. And some of them also wondering what is actually the question next that the regulator, for example, is asking, or maybe the pressure coming from the media. They are threatening, for example, releasing some of the news, even if we are not able to provide some answer by a certain date. So that was actually very stressful, and I got the feedback from the CMT member that they learned a lot from that meeting, because there are some, maybe they are already prepared, but there are some situations that they never thought before, but that is actually quite relevant to when there is a situation like that, when there is a CMT crisis like that. So I got numbers of feedback from them. It's quite good, and then it's quite insightful, and they want to do it again in every year. That's why I can tell that it's actually quite successful.
Wow, that's very insightful with the simulating the regulator calls. I love how you've done the scenario and the teams can learn from it. On a different note, when it comes to translating technical risks into business impact, what strategies have you found most successful?
Yeah, this is a very common question that I've been asked numbers of times as well from my friend, etc. The most important is actually coming back to the question, so what, that I was mentioning before in the first question. So what question is very important when we are talking to the business people. So my strategy when I translate technical risk to the business impact is always relating it to the strategy. For example, you may know that your organization maybe have a strategy. I give an example, for example, meaning more customer through enhanced mobile apps through cloud migrations. Maybe this is one of their strategy. So in order for you to explain the technical risk or cyber risk, is actually to relate how your cyber risk is actually can help to accelerate that business strategy. So you can speak to the head of the department that may be responsible to deliver that, and then you can explain how your cybersecurity strategy or cyber risk actually how will enable them, how can propel the strategy, how can make the business strategy to be successful, or how it's actually giving them the early indicator or potential setback if the cyber risk is actually continuously higher or increasing. So this is usually my strategy when I'm talking to the business people, how is actually my business or how my cybersecurity strategy can help them propel and enable them in order to achieve their business strategy. This is my strategy, Adrian.
No, that's a very good way to hear that. So we're talking about strategy. I think one of the things that most people struggle with is doing cybersecurity awareness programs for the board level. We've already talked about the so what and obviously translating to business impact. On top of that, are there any particular approaches you found to be especially effective?
Yeah. So this is the way I usually plan my cybersecurity awareness. So the cybersecurity awareness is just part of my annual cybersecurity program. So how I do this, usually I plan the cybersecurity awareness in Q4 for the next year one. So I usually have different program, different topic for different people, for example, including like developer, senior member, board, but even also like executive assistant, the secretary of the senior manager. So we have different kind of content for different people in different time. So I usually slot in like one or two awareness meeting for the board or the senior management. And then I usually do that in a certain time. So I usually do that after the executive assistant, for example. And the way I craft the content is I try to include some example. So you as a CISO, you may have identified or detected some of the activity that may relate to some of the member of the senior management. You can use, for example, I used before the BC, business email compromise of attacking some of the member of the senior managers. So we can include that in the content for the security awareness for the board of senior managers, so that at least it shows some relevancy to the organization. It actually happens. It's actually attacking, targeting some of the members, so they can talk about it between themselves. So it actually attracts their attention for it. The other way I include topic, for example, that some organization be attacked. So if it is organization relevant to you, for example, your competitors or the organization in the same size or the same business as yours, this may attract the attention from them. They want to know more. How can the attack happen to that company? Because that company also similar size with us, similar businesses with us. So this kind of example that is kind of relevant to them. This is my strategy to attract the attention and, of course, actually delivering the security awareness with additional content. After that, I also receive numbers of positive feedback from them.
That makes so much sense with you explaining in terms of focusing on the topics that resonate with them. Let's also talk about metrics. So in your opinion, what are the key metrics or KPIs that resonate the most with board members when you're discussing about cyber security?
So when we say about the board, it may be a different meaning. So what I mean about this board is actually the supervisory board. So the board is actually sitting, this board is actually on top of those the operational manager meeting. So the way I structure the KPI is for the board. So I divide it into three in terms of the metric. So the level 1 metric is actually for the board, so the top one. The level 2 is actually for the operational level, so for the senior manager, for example, is operational risk meeting, or if you have a non-financial risk meeting, if you are a financial institution company, this is at level 2. And the level 3 will be for the operational level, so maybe sitting with the CIO, maybe sitting with the CFO. So there are numbers of different metrics for different kind of board or different kind of meeting. So the idea is actually the level 1 metrics must be supported by the level 2, and the level 2 also must be supported by the level 3. I give you an example. So in level 1, in the board meeting, I have the KPI or metrics that says how many major cybersecurity incident happens in the organization. For example, that is the metric for the level 1 in the board. And this must be supported by the level 2. So the example for the level 2 is how many unpatched critical vulnerability on the externally facing application, for example, or how many unsecure previous account in that application. So that is actually support the level 1. And then we have another one for level 3 that support level 2. The idea is that we should have the meeting on level 3 and level 2 earlier than level 1, so that there is no surprises. And whatever that you present into the level 1 of the board meeting, it should be for the board. It's not for operational. For example, like a patching, right? A patching shouldn't be in the board because that is more operational. It should be presented into the level 2 where the operational member or the CEO or or the senior member management can take actions. So the board metric is something that you presented to them, and then you expect for the board to action. So that patching, it shouldn't be in the board meeting, because it should be done by the operational member or the senior member or the organization that can do something about it. I hope that makes sense, Edwin.
No, absolutely. So I guess there's 3 different levels, and there's different responsibilities. So you kind of target to the different groups the right kind of metrics in there.
That's right.
And I guess when you talk about the different groups and all, obviously at different levels, there's different levels of technical expertise in there. So how do you balance the need for technical accuracy with the need to communicate in a non-technical language when you're talking to the boards?
I think the technical accuracy is less relevant in the board meeting, Edwin, in my opinion. Based on my experience, I rarely been challenged in terms of technical accuracy. We rarely talk about technical accuracy. We mostly talk about non-technical language, and mostly talk about so what for them. It's back to the question number 1 just now I mentioned. So I think the technical accuracy is less important. And if really necessarily, you can include that into the appendix. Remember, the board meeting is very quick, usually just 15 and 20 minutes. You don't have much time for it. So it's for you as a CISO, rather than you're talking about technical accuracy, you better talk about something else, because you don't have much time. You may be talking about what is happening with your organization, what is happening to your competitors, and then what is actually what you want for the board to do. So I think back to the so what question again, technical accuracy is not really that relevant. I think more relevant is what you want to say in the board meeting, why you are there. So, for example, you're explaining about the cyber security strategy that you're trying to, or you want to get them support you in your program, etc. I think it is more worth it to well spend time in the board rather than technical accuracy.
That makes so much time. Like I do know that your time that you have in front of the board is limited. So focusing on the things that matter to them, such as the so what, it sounds like that makes so much sense. Can you share an example of a time when you successfully convinced the board to invest in a critical security initiative, and what approach did you take?
Yeah, this is quite interesting, Edwin. As I mentioned before, usually our time in the board is just 15 and 20 minutes and not more than that. So because board is very busy, the whole day they're meeting with so many things, and there are a lot of content that they need to process. So presenting the cybersecurity initiative is a big challenge, right? So first, you need to explain what is this, what is that, what is technical. It will not do a justice for the content that is within 15, 20 minutes, and also will not do justice to the board member, because they have to absorb all your whatever you explain in their 15, 20 minutes, and then have to make a decision. So this is very challenging if you do it in the normal board meeting. So what I did before was I was proposing if we have like a workshop with the board. So, for example, 4 hours, etc., depend on the availability. You spend more time with them in the non-formal meeting, in the workshop, where you can ask them to ask any question that they may have, and then try to spend that time to make sure the board understand what they're trying to do. Cybersecurity strategy is not small. It's not a short content. It's a very thick content. You need to explain, and then you need to give them a time and also all the information so that they can make an informed decision, right? So in this workshop, I presented every single one initiative that I'm planning to do for the next 1 or 3 years later, and then allow them to ask so many questions, make sure they understand. With the idea, after the workshop, we go to the real board meeting, the next real board meeting, and 15 minutes and 20 minutes, they understand what is that, and they make a decision on that. So that's what my strategy is.
That is such a great approach. Like, you focus that 10, 15 minutes focusing on the so what, get them engaged, get them interested, and then they will want to come to that workshop to learn even more. And with that, they understand more and they can make better decisions in future meetings. Such a great approach.
Right.
Looking ahead, how do you see the role of the CISO evolving in terms of board communication and executive level security awareness? Will it stay the same, or are there going to be any changes?
I think in the future, CISO role will become more on the strategic advisor to the board or the senior management. I think the executive level security awareness, it doesn't have to be like in the classroom, in the upline meeting, and slot into the board meeting. I think the security awareness will have to be like a day-to-day conversation to the board. Every time you talk to them, your role as a CISO is actually to communicate and also to make them more aware about the new cyber issues, etc. So to me, I think the security awareness will not become like a meeting. It will become your language to the board. Every time to talk to them, day-to-day conversation with your CEO, CIO, it's always including the security awareness. I think the CISO role in the future will be less technical. I think there will be more strategic and talking to the board how the CISO can play a role in the business strategy, how they can enable the business strategy, how they can communicate with the new regulatory requirements, and how they can support in terms of speaking to a question with the regulator, maybe asking, and then together with them answering that and sitting with them. I think that CISO role in the future will be more like that, Edwin.
Wow, that is so insightful. I have so many more questions. I could keep going, but it looks like we're just about out of time today. So thank you for coming on the show and sharing your deep insights with us today. Your experience highlights the importance of effective communication and practical exercises in building a strong security culture at the executive level.
Thank you, Edwin. Thank you for inviting me again. And I hope that whatever I share will be beneficial to other people. Thank you so much.
It is definitely beneficial. To our listeners, remember that bridging the gap between technical security and business strategy is crucial for organizational resilience. Whether you're a CISO, a security leader, or aspiring to these roles, honing your ability to speak the board's language is an invaluable skill. And what we learned today is to start with the so what. That's all for this episode of AppSec Unlocked. I'm Edwin Kwan, and until next time, stay secure and keep unlocking the secrets of application security.